So now we're going to look at the operators. And you're probably noticing that a lot of these things really need each other to work together, and that's okay. Hopefully this isn't too confusing. It's a lot of information coming at you at once, but I'm just trying to give you an overview. And then when you start really designing things in Scratch, you can look up tutorials for what you specifically want to do, okay? So operators give us some different things. One thing it's giving us is here we have a conditional where we can do some, sorry, not a conditional, we have an operation where we can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Here we can pick a random number. So for example, if you want to make a game, you might want to have the game wait a random amount of time. Like maybe you want it to wait. You know, sometimes in a game you don't want it to be too predictable. You don't want it to be like every 3 seconds a monster shows up. So you could say anywhere from 1 to 10 seconds. Here you need to know a little bit of math symbols if something is less than something else. So you could say if your score is less than 10, something will happen. If your score is equal to, or if something is greater than something else. Here we have ands and ors. So and means both things have to happen. So for the and symbol, for example, if I said, if the cat, so I'm going to pull in an if just so that you can see what I'm doing here. So if, and then I can put this blank and blank in there, and I can put things in there. So I could say if the cat is, touching the edge, silliness, there we go. If the cat is touching the edge, and let's say the space key is pressed, then I want something to happen. Now that and means that this, whatever I put in here, will only happen if both of these things are happening. The cat has to be touching the edge, and I have to be pushing the space bar for whatever's in here to happen. However, I do have the or. So I could do the same thing. I could say if the cat is touching the edge, or the space key is pressed. So and would mean that both of those things have to happen, or obviously means only one of those has to happen. So sometimes you might want to say, you know, if the cat's touching the edge, or your time is greater than something. Like maybe you're playing a game where the cat has to get to the edge of the screen, but you only want them to have 10 seconds. So you might say, if touching the edge, or, and here I'd have to go, so I'm putting in a greater, I'd have to go to my timer, or the timer is greater than 60 seconds, then I'm going to look, say game over. That's just an example of something you could do, okay? Lots of things, obviously, you can do here. There's also a not. So I could have, maybe I want something that is not. So if the cat is touching the edge and not, I don't know, not touching pink. Okay, so now I've got an and not. So not makes it the opposite, right? So we're saying, in this case, we would be saying, let me get rid of that one. When is the game over? Only if the cat is touching the edge and not touching pink. So maybe I have a pink stripe up here and a pink stripe down here, or maybe there's like pink monsters trying to stop it. The cat has to be touching the edge and not touching pink. Then it says game over. So that's something else you can do with an operator. You can join letters together and stuff. We're not going to worry too much about these. There's cool things you can do with them, but we don't have time to cover everything in Scratch because Scratch is a really big, really complicated program that you can do a lot of stuff with. If you want to learn more about it, that's really awesome, and I think you should. But for now, that's that. So same thing here, I can put in answers. Now remember we talked about questions and answers before? See how answer here is round? That's where this comes in. So I could say, for example, if the answer to the question is less than 7, I want you to do something. So in that case, it would look something like this. If your answer is less than 7, like maybe I'm doing a math game and I want to know what number is bigger. So I could say if the answer is less than 7, say, sorry, you got it wrong for 2 seconds. So that's where your answer can come in. You can also say that you want your answer to look at like something else. Another thing you can do is you can actually say your answer. So if I do, so I've got a lot of code in here. Let me get rid of some of this. Try not to do this. I'm kind of showing you bad habits. Like, you shouldn't wind up with a bunch of random code floating around. It's not really the best. But what I can do is I can go back to, events. So when the green flag is clicked, I want the program to ask, what's your name? And wait. And then I want it to say whatever my answer was. So let's try. I click there and he says, what's your name? And I say, Miss Smart. And then he says, answer for 2 seconds. Easy stuff. So operators are going to become really useful when you want to do more complicated programming.